On May 1st, 1971, the Intercity Rail Passenger Company, known as Amtrak, came into the world, starting service in the Midwest of the United States. Amtrak was formed to help save intercity passenger trains, as it was near death's doorstep at the time. However, 1 month after Amtrak's inception would come Amtrak's first fatal tragedy. On June 10, 1971, Amtrak No. 1, later renumbered 59, the city of New Orleans, departed Chicago's Central Station at 8 a.m. Central Time. The city of New Orleans was a daytime train between Chicago and New Orleans, Louisiana. Up until April 30th, 1971, it had been operated by the Illinois Central Railroad, but was passed down to Amtrak. The train consisted totally of ex-Illinois Central equipment, from engines to coaches. The engines were E7A 4031, E9Bs 4109 and 4106, and E10A 2024, which was a rebuilt E8A and used to be numbered as 4032. Unfortunately, the ride didn't go too smoothly. During the run south from Chicago, the number 2 engine on 4031 died during the run, and there was no way to fix it. E units have two 12-cylinder EMD Model 567B engines inside of them, which gave them a total of 2,250 horsepower. After a crew change in Champaign, Illinois, the new crew observed the number 2 engine on 4031 and found that it could respond to the throttle and concluded it was operational again. Perhaps it fixed itself. The train continued southbound down the Illinois Central Main Line, which was double-track with crossovers. As the train passed over one of these crossovers at Tonti, it happened. The train derails in a devastating logjam. 4031 flipped onto its side and skidded down the line, while 4109 had its prime movers jarred loose and catch fire. 4106 and 2024 remain upright and suffer minor damage. The lead baggage car and first 5 coaches were destroyed. The remaining 8 cars suffered varying degrees of damage. 11 people were killed, and 163 were injured. 6 of the 11 deaths occurred when passengers were ejected from their seats and flew through the large glass side windows. Everyone was asking the fateful question, why? Why did this have to happen? Was it something to do with 4031's prime movers? The NTSB investigators decided to inspect the sideways 4031, and they discovered flat spots on the rear truck of 4031. Flat spots tend to be pretty harmless and can happen when the wheel axle temporarily seizes and drags along the rail. This tends to happen from ice, leaves, or slamming the brakes a little too hard. Sometimes it happens by poor maintenance. However, if it were to grow to the point the wheel can no longer turn, it jams the axle, which is known as a hot box. Inspection of the tracks between Tonti and Effingham, Illinois confirmed this indeed happened. The tracks revealed markings where the wheels had slid stationary instead of spinning. The lock wheels created a false flange, and when the compromised wheel reached the switch at the crossover at Tonti, it caught it and derailed. Investigators then looked into the maintenance records of 4031 and found something odd. 4031 had made another run from Chicago to New Orleans on June 6, just days before the disaster. Engine number 2 had failed on that trip as well and was shut down in New Orleans. As an added precaution, the reverser for the engine was locked in neutral for the trip back to Chicago. Shutting down the engine and locking the reverser in neutral had the effect of disabling the wheel slip indicator, which would notify the engineer that a wheel was slipping or sliding along the track. While 4031 was repaired in Chicago, the Illinois Central Maintenance Force did not observe that the reverser was locked and did not realize that power was not being supplied to the rear truck, which led to the engine failing again, and the flat wheel, which led to the disaster. After that, the NTSB confirmed the mechanical faults on 4031 were the direct cause for the accident. The NTSB made recommendations for improvements in wheel slip detection devices for locomotives and in pre-departure testing procedures. The NTSB also recommended that the Federal Railroad Administration, or FRA, draft safety standards to address the ejection of passengers through windows in the events of such freak accidents. Nowadays, the windows of trains are so tough, they might as well be bulletproof. Sure, they may crack if a rock hits it, but since modern windows are layered, they won't shatter and send a passenger out the window like a missile. 4031 and 4109 were scrapped after the accident, while 4106 and 2024 were repaired and put back into service. However, after both engines were retired from Amtrak, neither one survived today. 48 years have passed since the incident, and while Amtrak hasn't had the cleanest safety record over the years, we can all agree very important life lessons were learned on that fateful day.